Hey there, guys. All right, today we are back with some more extra credits. This time, back with another extra history series. This time, their series on the defense of Poland, Episode 1, The Battle of the Border. Before I dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box below. I would love it if you joined the Discord and followed me over at Twitch. Really got nothing to add here. I'm curious where actually they're gonna start this. Are they gonna start with the false claims Germany made with Nazi Germany made to justify the German invasion, or are we just getting right into the action with September 1st, 1939? I believe was the day of the invasion started. I'm not sure. Let's find out.
September 1st,
Oh, okay. Yep, September 1st.
Danzig, 4:48 a.m. The German battleship fires. 11-inch shells scream towards the Polish garrison holding the peninsula. Troops hit the dirt. A brick wall smashes inward. A radio man transmits to the next base along the coast. SOS, under fire. Bullets tear past. A Polish soldier falls. The first combat casualty of a new world war. Now there are German troops coming through the break in the wall. The Poles open fire, catching the invaders in a kill zone, forcing them back. Only 182 Polish soldiers defend this peninsula. They're under attack from a battleship, dive bombers, field artillery, and nearly a division's worth of German soldiers.
Damn.
Even the local police have thrown in with the Nazis.
Oh,
But they'll hold as long as they can.
respect.
This series is brought to you by World of Tanks PC. Check out the game at the link below and use the code ORLIK for extra goodies. Mokra, southern Poland, 6:30 a.m. They must have crossed the border by now, the cavalrymen think. Nearly
I actually kind of okay. So I probably because by the time they made this, they had already made a bunch of series on World War II, so they felt that they didn't need to, or also just the fact that the lead up to World War II is so heavily discussed everywhere else that they felt like they maybe did not need to discuss the lead up to the German invasion of Poland, which I like. I like that they're not really wasting time here discussing something that you and I are already well aware of, right? We already know about the build up to World War II. We know what Mustache Man is doing. So I like that they're just going straight into the fighting.
10% of the Polish army is cavalry. Modern cavalry. Cavalry that
Modern.
fights on foot using horses to reposition and scout. Cavalry that tows anti-tank guns behind them. Cavalry that's dug into a line of trees outside of the town of Mokra, along with an infantry division and a battalion of TKS tankettes, waiting to meet the invasion. Waiting is the hardest part. The first Germans they see are motorcycle scouts. They exchange fire, probing. An hour later, the armor emerges. It's the 4th Panzer Division, pressing forward with 25 Panzer I and IIs, firing on the move. Autocannons set the thatched roofs of Mokra alight. The cavalry holds fire until the panzers close, then answer with their anti-tank guns. Half-dozen tanks slew, burning, grinding to a halt. Polish machine guns drive back the supporting infantry. They've stopped the first wave. Then comes another, and another. House-to-house fighting breaks out in the village. German armor and motorized infantry press close to the Polish positions. Airstrikes and artillery pound the woods. With a blast of steam, an iron behemoth pulls out of the trees. The Poles back up. Armored train number 53. Its twin cannons and machine guns open up. 12 German tanks go out of action. The 4th Panzer regroups and attacks again. Warsaw. Another crash rattles the window. German dive bombers have been hitting Warsaw since 8 a.m. Edvard Rydzmigwe, Marshal of Poland, looks at his map. Things are going as well as they can
Not
be
bad.
under the circumstances. Germany is invading Poland from 3 of its borders, north, south, and west. The enemy has around 53 divisions, while Rydzmigwe has 40, if that. But at least in these early hours, the Polish defensive lines are holding. In some places, better than that. At Mokra, the defenders report 100 German vehicles destroyed. There are problems, of course, but he has one big advantage. He doesn't need to win. See, Polish strategy rested on two major pieces of diplomacy. The first was a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, securing the country's eastern border and allowing the Polish army to prepare for the possibility of a German invasion. After all, Poland couldn't fight a two-front war. The second was a mutual defense pact, signed agreements with France and Britain to aid Poland in the event of a German invasion. As a sweetener, Rich Smigwe had given them Poland's most prized secret. They'd cracked the German Enigma codes and reverse-engineered a machine. He'd given each ally a copy of it earlier that year. It was a sound strategy. In order to invade Poland,
It's sound strategy that didn't work because the French and British didn't do anything. 'Cause they're great allies and they were too scared to fight.
Hitler would need to
Which, of course, I've talked about why they've been too scared to fight, and it's understandable why, but it still fucking sucks.
strip divisions from the German homeland, leaving only a token force on his western border. If Germany violated Polish borders, the agreement stated France would invade from the west, forcing Hitler to withdraw his troops and allowing Poland to counterattack. Britain would provide bombing support. But for the treaty to take effect, the invasion of Poland had to be contested. The Germans couldn't just walk in, as they had in Czechoslovakia. As a result, Rich Smigwe had been forced to spread his troops thin, ensuring that wherever the Germans crossed the border, they'd be met with resistance. His plan called for the Polish army to buy time with a fighting withdrawal and regroup near Warsaw, ready to strike once France had mobilized and intervened. But he still didn't have enough troops, and it was his allies' fault. Every time Hitler made threats, Rich Smigwe had tried to sound the mobilization, but every time, Britain and France shut him down. A mobilization would give Hitler an excuse to invade, they said, and they continued saying so even as German troops gathered on the border. Even the week before, when Germany signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviets, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, they'd preached restraint. 2 days ago, Rich Smigwe had enough and sounded general mobilization, but the British forced him to rescind it. Now Hitler had made his own excuse, staging a fake attack on a radio station and blaming it on Polish partisans. So much for provocation. Luckily, Rich Smigwe had been secretly mobilizing troops for weeks, calling them up for summer maneuvers as a cover story. It wasn't enough, but it gave him an army. And that was a good thing, because as a result of diplomatic pressure, the Polish army hadn't openly mobilized until a day before the invasion. Now, just half of the army had reached their positions, and only a fraction of those were combat ready. Poland was vastly outnumbered, facing a mechanized opponent with more modern equipment. The Luftwaffe's yearly budget was larger than all Polish defense spending since 1935.
Ooh.
Germany had produced 800 tanks in 1938. Poland made 50.
Ooh.
But at least those 50 tanks were good tanks. 87% of German armor
Fucking
consisted
strong.
of Panzer 1s and 2s, thin-skinned training tanks outfitted for combat. Poland's new 7TP matched the Panzer 1 and 2 for armor, while sporting a larger, long-ranged Bofors gun. The old Polish TKS tankettes could do little against German armor, but the 7TPs might make some difference if they made it to the battlefield. Still, at least things were going well, for now. September 2nd. Things are not going well anymore. By the second day,
it was just a
it's
day.
clear that the highly mobile tactics the Germans had field-tested in the Spanish Civil War, what others would later call blitzkrieg, are outmaneuvering and penetrating the Polish defense. Regular army units stand their ground, but the National Guard constantly withdraws in poor order, creating gaps in the line. The Polish army tries to make up lost ground in night operations, but the fatigue of constant battle offsets any gains. Polish troops fight day and night for 3 days straight. And the roads are nearly impassable. Refugees choke every roadway, getting in the way of troop movements, raving about Nazi liquidation squads operating behind German lines. Dive bombers enhance the chaos, attacking soldiers and civilians alike. Communication begins to break down. The army doesn't have enough radios. Tanks have to communicate with signal flags. Meanwhile, the German armor
Ugh.
executes precision encirclements coordinated via wireless. On September 3rd, Britain and France declare war on Germany. But by then, German forces were precariously close to Warsaw. But at least the 7 TPs finally arrive. September 5th, Piotrków, 10:30 a.m.
I'm really loving the layout of this episode in particular. Going day by day here, kind of hour by hour. This is really well done.
It's the last opportunity to stall the German advance in the south. Polish troops are retreating.
And I love the one thing that Extra History tends to do really well is they do a very fantastic job of kind of focusing it on through the perspective of the nation that this is about, right? Here is pretty much the Polish perspective. We are not discussing, the politics that England and France were doing while waiting, right? We're not really discussing the internal German politics, right? There was a brief mention of Germany, non-aggression pact with Russia, and then, of course, Germans having the threat of the French on their western border. That was pretty much all it was. Everything else about this video is just Poland. So that's something that Extra Credits tends to do really well.
To regroup around Warsaw. But if the 4th Panzer Division takes this road hub, the door to the capital will stand open. The day before, the 7 TPs of the Polish 2nd Light Tank Battalion had their first skirmish with the Panzer II, and had taught the German tankers to fear their 37mm Bofors cannon. Now the Germans are closing on Piotrków with tanks and motorized infantry, but there's a chance, just a chance, to cut off the bulge in the German line, to take prisoners, to surround them. It was time to counterattack. Major Karpov, commander of the 2nd Light Tank Battalion, orders the advance. They surge forward on either side of the German push, utilizing the low hills for cover, and close to 500 meters. The lead 7 TP sights in. The industrial chung of the gun fills the turret with acrid smoke. They fire again. A Panzer II burns. Autocannon rounds slap the 7 TP's glacis, failing to penetrate. The Germans' armor runs for the woods. On the other flank, 7 TPs tear through panzers and armored cars. Germans bail out of the burning craft. The 7 TPs encircle them.
Nice.
The 1st Light Tank Battalion strikes in the north, engaging a dozen tanks as they push toward the junction. But German artillery shells begin to drop, and there's no one following behind the 7 TPs to exploit their breakthrough. The
Damn.
German spearhead, though mauled, is still heading for Piotrków. Major Karpov calls a withdrawal. In 2 days of fighting, his 2nd Light Tank Battalion has destroyed 17 panzers, 2 self-propelled guns, and 14 armored cars.
Nice.
During just this attack, Polish armor had destroyed 15 German tanks with the loss of only 7 of their own.
Oh, no, that's not a good trade. We saw how many that they can build. That is... No, that's an awful trade-off. 15 for 7 when the Germans built 800 in 38, while the Polish were only able to build, 50, 80 of them?
But that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There are no Polish units ready or able to exploit the victory. The plan remains to retreat towards Warsaw. So that's what they'll do. September 7th, Warsaw. Marshal Ritz Śmigły gathers his documents. Command staff haul radios and charts. They're evacuating to Brest along with the rest of the government. Plans call for making Warsaw a citadel, a stone for the Germans to break their teeth on. But he and the rest of the government cannot be killed in that assuredly bitter combat. The French are already massing on Germany's western border. Soon, he'll be managing a
They're not doing
counterattack.
anything, though.
He leaves a small communication team to forward messages onto his new headquarters. He has no idea how mangled the lines of communication are, how little he will know once he relocates, and how impossible it will be to transmit orders. The Polish army, already hard pressed, is about to lose touch with its leadership. The next day, the 4th Panzer Division reaches Warsaw. Inside, soldiers set up concealed artillery. Civilians dig trenches, planning to trap German tanks and torch them with cans of gasoline. Warsaw is preparing for a siege.
All right. And that was the defense of Poland, the Battle of the Border. Extra history number 1 by Extra Credits. This was really well done. Yeah, I like this already. I like the pacing of it. I like the way that they're conveying the information. Yeah, this was well made. This was well done. Already top 10. Top 10. I'm not gonna say top 5 because I feel like I've said top 5 for more than 5 series. For more than 5 extra history series. But yeah, top 10 for now. We'll see if it becomes the 7th top 5. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.